Well, hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Psychic Diaries. I'm Michael Lamport, and I'm the producer of the paranormal show Rescue Mediums. And with me is the incomparable Jackie Dennison, who is the host of Rescue Mediums and an internationally renowned psychic. We are, for those of you that watch Psychic Diaries frequently, and I hope there are many of you, you'll know that what we do is we interview people in the paranormal field in different endeavors, or just everybody that's sort of touching on the paranormal in any way, shape, or form. And we are so privileged today to be able to interview Kristin Groulx, who is, she calls herself, well, doesn't call herself, she is an intuitive author. And I love this phrase, she's a metaphysical muse. I love that. And she's the author of a series of young adult paranormal books called The Misadventures of Allison Bell. So welcome to the show, Kristin.
Thank you very much. Happy to be here. So
we're excited that you're here. We've been trying to get you since I don't know when, and I have to just slip this in here because I have my very beloved copy here.
I don't know how many years ago I sent that to you, but yeah, I've since done 7 more. Wonderful.
Well, people that are watching, I mean, you can get these novels basically at any of the major bookshops, Barnes and Noble, Indigo, Amazon, even. So, and
Waterstones in the UK also carries them, and lots of select bookstores. And you can also find them in small town, like in the Perth, Ontario, is where I'm currently living. I go all over the world, but I have my books in many of the places here. So.
Well, first question I'd like to ask is, do you think that the character of Allison Bell, intuitively, did you write it around some of your own paranormal experiences? 100%.
100%. I would definitely say that Allison Bell, it's a semi-autobiographical fiction book. In the genre of paranormal romance. But I actually have 7 characters that kind of all are a group of sisters, and I call them the Sacred 7 Sisters. They're all related to Allison, but some of them live in other dimensions. It's a very multi-dimensional book. Some of them are her spirit guides, like she has a spirit guide named Abigail that she talks to. And when I was writing the series, I just was flooded with all kinds of interesting information that I had to jot down. And some of it I don't even know where it came from, but I look back through the book series, and it definitely was me connecting with many guides. And
wow,
I'm happy to have done, this was 20 years of my life right behind me. I'm showing the
oh yes, yeah,
7 posters here. And I haven't finished the 7th book. I've been working on it. This is the only copy. So it's a compendium, but I wanted to chat a little bit about some of the things in it. First of all, a little bit, I was raised very Catholic, as many people are. As I branched out and started developing my own spirituality, even as a child, I was always connected to angels and things. I could feel or sense, I won't say spirits, but sometimes it was spirits. Like I have actually seen full-blown apparitions and things like that. Yeah, I can tell all kinds of ghost stories. When I started writing the book series, a lot just started flooding through, and one of the characters that came to me was a winged lion, and I called him Seamus. I don't know why I called him Seamus. This is a picture.
I love Seamus.
But as I was writing I walked through a winery, and I happened to pass by a wine bottle. And this is after I wrote the series, and it had a
Oh my God.
winged lion on it. And I have since learned that the winged lion is kind of a Christ consciousness figure. And so I tapped into that a little bit. So I worked with that energy while writing the book series.
Well, cats feature a lot in the books, don't they?
Oh, well, yeah. I've also had a really strong communication with animals. My mom was a veterinary technician, and her father was a veterinarian in Hollywood. He actually worked with the Lassies while he was out in Hollywood. But I was really connected with animals ever since a child. I could communicate with any. There's no animal that I can't just walk up to and sense what's going on with them. So
yeah,
even my own cats. So there was another thing I wanted to mention about the numbers also.
Oh yeah, I wanted to ask you about that, about numbers, because when somebody is psychic,
yeah,
one of the first things that they become aware of is a numbers repeating.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah, and,
all the time.
Now, I know through reading your biography that there was a sequence of numbers that was a confirmation for you or something, wasn't there?
Well, besides seeing the usual, like I see 1111 all the time.
Yeah.
And 222, 333, anytime, all the time. And my special numbers are 817. Whenever I see 817, because that's my birthday, I'm like, something good's gonna happen. But when I first wrote this series in 2004, I was working as an editor, and I tried for a couple years to get it traditionally published, but then I saw that we were going to be approaching on some, by 2007, I saw that we were coming to a sequence of numbers. And so I decided to publish my books. The first one came out on 7/7/7, 2007. And then sequentially 8/8/8, 9/9/9, 10/10/10, 11/11/11, and the last one, the sixth book, culminated on 12/21/12, which at the time was the whole hoopla of the Mayan calendar, and I thought that was really a neat date.
And so, that's my birthday.
Really wonderful.
Yeah.
So, and then I have this one to publish, and I've been looking for a good. I still have to finish it. Maybe I'll do that this year.
Yes, please.
I would love to finish it. I've been writing it. It's because it's a compendium, and I want to put as much in it as possible.
Sure. Yeah,
Wow.
absolutely. You know, one of the first things that grabbed me about this book in particular, when we were talking about cats, was the painting that in the story, Alyson's mother had painted a picture of a cat by a window. And without giving too much away about the story, I know that Alyson puts this picture in this new house by a window, and is absolutely amazed that is the picture that her mother has painted. And when she asked her mum about it, I don't know why I'm telling you, because you wrote the story.
Yeah, I know.
But Michael hasn't. But her mum said she got that in a dream. She had the dream of this vision. So do you have dreams like that yourself? Because you're very artistic, aren't you, as well? I mean, there are so many strings to your bow, it's unreal.
I have a lot of premonitions and prophetic dreams. Mostly stuff I would wake up and I would write it down. Sometimes I draw a picture of what I saw. I can give an example if you like.
Yeah.
One time I was home from college, and I was at my parents' house, and at the time they were living in Rhode Island. And because my dad's Navy, so we've bounced all over the world. But he was living in Rhode Island at the time. And I had a dream about a shark that was washed up on the beach. And my mom's, when I woke up, I told her about it. I even showed her a picture that I had drew of the shark. She says, "Oh, that's really neat." She kind of dismissed it. And that day, she said, "Well, you know, the beach sounds like a fun place. Why don't we go ahead and go for a walk?" Because it was really close by, and we were right by Newport. So we're walking along the beach, and well, guess what happened? There was a shark, and it was beached, and there were people helping it get back into the water.
Wow.
It's stuff like that, but it happens all the time. And my kids also have it. My mom also had it. She could pick up the phone and just start talking, and she would pick it up before it rang. And that's a gift that I was like, okay, how do you know who you're talking to, and how did you even know it was going to ring? So it just kind of is. We're just a very intuitive family.
Yeah, that's cool.
So premonitions is something. Spirit speaks to me in other ways, which this is something that was point about the book series. It was pointed to me after the fact. In book 3, I have a character named Elizabeth Welch.
Yeah.
She's a thief, a prostitute, and a witch. And book 4, something really bad happens. Let's just call that. But later, a person came up and told me, you know, did you ever do anagrams for any of the names of the characters in your books? And I'm like, why? And because Elizabeth Welch and I spelled it with an S, and I don't know why I spelled it with an S. Her name rearranged becomes a bewitch's hell. And
wow.
And how she dies, which I think I'm not going to say it, but I've already alluded. You probably already know.
Mm-hmm.
But a bewitch's hell is like, oh, well, that's fitting. And then my main character's love interest, Ethan Riley, his name rearranged was really Vine. And I thought, I don't know what that means, but, you know, as far as the connection to Allison, but I thought that was a really neat thing. Yeah, I've written.
I love it how things come together like that. You know, after the fact.
Oh, yeah.
You know, then it makes total sense. I mean, you were talking earlier about the influence that you believe you have from spirit when you're writing, because some of it is definitely you, of course, because of your experiences that you've had. But then other stuff that is being channeled
flows through, and I'm channeling, and then I read it later, and I'm like, that's good stuff. It's like I wrote it, but yeah, it's really good.
Yeah. Do you have a set time to write? Do you you know, or do you just, you know, as and when it comes, or do you set yourself a time? I mean, some writers do that, don't they? Right, I'm going to write from 11 a.m. till 2 p.m. and then that's it for the day, you know?
Right. I'm a mother of 3, and so a lot of the times my writing was when they were at school.
Right.
And I would have pieces of paper, napkins, bookmarks, anything I could scribble on, and I would have notes written. If I'm out at a restaurant, I'm writing. I'm always with a pen in hand and just writing things down or drawing a picture. And then I come home and I'd assemble it, and then I made a book with all that. So,
Wow.
A little bit where this all began. I've been seeing spirits since I was a child, and one of the places that I lived, again, my dad was Navy, so we bounced around every 2 years. We were living in a new fascinating place, it felt like. But we lived in this small town near Akron, Virginia. I don't know if you've ever heard of Akron, but if you were to look it up, you will find it's incredibly haunted. It was settled in the 1600s. And originally it had the Algonquin Doge Indian tribe there, and Algonquin means at the end of the water. But when we visited in the 1980s, it was all these cute little shops and restaurants and things. And one of the places that I used to visit was called Miller's Lighthouse. And I didn't know at the time that the place was haunted until I went up and asked the owners, like, do you have another room underneath the stairs or behind this? I keep hearing whispering and footsteps. And he just laughed. And then later I talked to him again. He's like, okay, well, my house is, or my shop is haunted. And he told me stories about how some dolls would rearrange themselves, sometimes get thrown across. And at one time, the whispering was just very loud, and the owner of the shop said, will you please just be quiet? And at that time, simultaneously, all the music boxes in the shop started playing, things like that. So it's an incredibly haunted town. I always felt energy present when I was there. So I kind of got used to what that felt like, having spirit energy. I've had a full-blown apparition in my bedroom when I was, I guess I was maybe 6 or 7 years old.
Oh, wow.
And that one was a frightening experience. And
I bet.
I couldn't move out of my bed. Doctor said, oh, it was sleep paralysis. And I remember asking the doctor, then why was my dog barking? You know, it's like, then why, if it was only happening in my head, why was my dog barking? It's because there was this spirit in my room, a man with a duffel bag. And he just kind of turned around and like started to walk away, but then he vanished. But my dog was just ferociously, like, it did not like the presence of that. So I've gotten used to it. Where I went to high school, was overseas in Japan. And my high school, the year I went was, it expanded too many students, and they had never had that many students so we had to go to the overflow, which is across the street on top of the hospital. And on top of so the classes were going on the top floor, and in the bottom floor was a morgue. So there were spirits even when I was trying to go to high school. So again, I've had lots of energies around that. So.
Gosh, you should write, the story of your life in actual events.
I've had people ask me to do that, and I'm like, I have a lot more fascinating writing about other people and helping them do their stories. I mean, the whole Allison Bell series, I guess. The posters here. That was a pretty fascinating series to write. It was paranormal romance.
Yeah, because it is team-based, isn't it? It's
it's team-based.
Yeah,
but I had a huge adult fan base.
Oh,
like the teens would get the book, and then the moms and dads would, mostly moms, they would take the books and they'd start reading it from the kids, and be like, okay, when's the next one coming out? So I was really happy with that.
They are, I mean, absolutely magical. I mean, the second one is it The Curse of?
The Curse of the Moonless Night.
Yes. I have a copy of that as well. I should have brought that with me. That's on my bookshelf at home.
And the second one was a dedication to a friend of mine named Glenn, who had died. He actually visited me post-death. I don't know, in spirit. He had died in a horrific car accident. And when he came to visit me, I asked him about it. And he said he didn't feel any pain, and he kind of described the accident. Later, his wife was talking to me about the accident. I was able to relay information, and I had never even been to where he was. And she's like, I don't know how you know all that stuff, because he told me. Yeah. So
that's the comforting thing, isn't it, when you are able to communicate with spirit in that way, is for me that is proof that life is continuous, that once we shed the body and we go through the doorway that we call death, it's not the end, it's just a transitional in a different dimension, as you say.
Well, energy can't be destroyed or created. It's just kind of always there. So when our vessel's gone, the energy has to go somewhere.
Yes. Exactly. One of the things that I know that you've talked about in the past is about DNA, about the DNA memory. So do you feel that within our DNA, we retain the DNA memory from past lives or from our past ancestors, or do you think it's the same because we're a composition of our parents, and we're also of our grandparents, where there's a little bit of them in us, and that's what makes our DNA so complete?
I'm unsure about the energy as far as past lives, but I do know that the epigenetic memory, the memories that your grandparents and great-grandparents and their stories, their trials and tribulations they had to go through, that passes through in our DNA. Like, I have pioneers and things like that, and so I have this craving to constantly go and pioneer places. So that's just coded within me. Also, the professions. I had no idea that my great-grandmother was a writer until maybe my later teens and 20s, and then my dad says, oh, by the way, I have these old newspaper clippings. Your great-grandmother was kind of famous. She wrote a a society page paper, and she had her own column in the 1920s. And I was like, really? So
Wow.
I wrote a book about her. Her column was called Demi-Tasse and Mrs. Grundy. And
I love that.
she married into the Rigby clan, which my Rigby ancestors all came from just around Manchester. And
You're joking.
No,
Oh my gosh.
no. Oh, I have a ton of Manchi.
One of my best friends, in fact, a medium also, and his surname is Rigby. And we live maybe 30-40 minutes away from Manchester, where I am here. So you could be related to him.
Quite possibly. It's a big amount. Rigby's a big name.
Yeah.
I type over 100 words a minute, so I'm very fast at getting the words out this way.
Yeah.
But if there's something that I want to draw or something, like I have pictures, and I can't wait to talk about graves.
Oh,
so
let's talk about graves.
I will tell you about graves. I did have some gravestones that I printed out that I was going to chat about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Things. As I've mentioned to you before, I also do genealogy because I love to tell people stories. But sometimes I don't have all the clues, and so I have to ask spirit for help for that. And oftentimes it's just me sitting down at my computer and just meditating or grounding, kind of just, getting into the mode. I was trying to do research on my fourth great-grandmother, and her name was Catherine Sussman. And I had a friend of mine who was over in Manchester take some photos over at the West Cemetery, right there below Salford. And this is the gravestone he took, and this is of the Fagan family. And I was like, oh, this is her daughter. But then I was really drawn to the bottom. The bottom part of it was calling me, this image. And so I zoomed in on it.
Yeah.
And I started seeing the lady's face.
I see that.
And so I drew, I don't know if you can kind of see my little sketch of what I was seeing.
I see
but
that.
as I zoomed in, it was just numbers.
Wow.
It was just numbers. But then I started comparing what those numbers were. And I was like, okay, this is an N and an E. And then it looks like April. And I'm like, wait a second. I know Catherine died in April. And it was hers. It's her grave.
Oh,
and
wow.
See, her husband actually had died across in Ireland. And she came over with all her children, and nobody could find her grave. But she was buried with her daughter.
Do you believe that she led you to that?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Through the artistic, me seeing a face.
Yeah, no, to me, that's psychic art.
Yeah. I love doing stuff like that.
Yes, absolutely. That's amazing. I love that.
And another one I had, which I think I've mentioned before, where I wrote the book series was in this 100-year-old house in a small community called Kenmore, near Metcalfe, Ontario. It's very small. But the teenagers, they learned that I was into graves and stuff like that. And they said, there's a grave in the middle of the forest and we should take you there. And I'm like, do you know who's buried there? And they're like, we don't have a clue. I'm like, okay, well, I'll go and I'll see what I can do. So this is the grave in the middle of the forest. Absolutely no readable markings whatsoever. So the first time I went there, I got down on the ground. I kind of put my hand on the ground there, and the teens were freaking out. It's like, what if something reaches up? And I'm like, nothing's gonna happen. I'm not afraid of spirits. But I said, there's more than one person buried here. I feel like there's two people buried here. And she's like, no, it's just one gravestone. No, I really feel like it's a woman and possibly an infant. She's like, okay, well, that's neat. So I did a rubbing of that gravestone. I could only make out a few letters, but as I came back and I started doing more research and communing, I found out the lady's name, Louisa Clement, wife of James Baird, and their newborn baby. And she died in 1860 at age 28. So I was really excited to find that kind of confirmation as well.
Yeah.
And the teens were like, we don't know how you knew there was a baby buried there.
Yeah. That's great though, when you can do that. I mean, that's one of the things with rescue mediums that we've always said right from day one. We have to be able to back up the information that spirit are giving to us. That's why, you know, our head of research, Edna Dargy, who is amazing, she writes everything down as we're walking around. She has the little headset on. She's writing everything down we say.
Right.
And then she goes and researches to give spirit that you know, almost like that acknowledgement that they have come through and given us that information.
Right.
Yeah, rather than it just be, oh, hearsay, oh, Joe Bloggs died there. No, we've no proof that Joe Bloggs died there. We need to go get that proof. So it's brilliant that you do that. I love that you do that. It's so important to have that that, you know, that when you can turn around and say, oh, well, I know that that's it. And it's sort of acknowledging that, yes, somebody's telling me this and it's not all in my imagination. How could I possibly have known that?
No, as a genealogist, I spend a lot of time walking around cemeteries, and I've had luck, I guess, at just walking right up to the gravestone that I'm looking for. It's almost as though I've been guided to go to that spot.
Oh, you don't say.
I've been really fortunate and lucky in those occurrences.
Like, okay, let's just push you that way. Oh, hang on.
It's been numerous. It's been numerous. In fact, it kind of blows people's minds. Like, how do you do that? I don't know. I just listen very carefully and I'm guided that way.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Now you've played is it a witch you've played? A sorceress.
She's a sorceress. I played a character called Tamora the Sorceress on a web series called Cornwyth, directed by Kendrick DeLepper. Sorry, didn't mean to botch his name. That was also during the time I was writing the book series, and they kind of coincide. So it was a lot of fun to play a witchy character.
I bet. I bet you had some great fun doing that. Did you bring a little bit of Alyson Bell into that, or did Alyson Bell creep into?
Well, Allison Bell came before Tamora did, and Tamora is she's more of a, I don't know what kind of witch you want to describe her, but yeah, a sorceress of sorts.
I love it.
She's not like the sorceress that you showed us a little earlier, who was a what did you say? She was a whore, a witch, and
a prostitute, a thief, and a witch, and that was Elizabeth Welch. Yeah. Wow. Again, don't know where those names popped in. They just popped in. So pretty fun.
When you get names like that popping in while you're writing, it's like, where did that come from? Do you then go away after you've finished to you know, curiosity? Like,
yes, I've looked up these people's names. Like, were these real people trying to communicate with me? I have not been able to find records of these two people, Elizabeth Welch and the man she was with, Jonathan Tarlington. But these are names out of the blue that are just like, okay, well, that's an interesting name. I'm not sure where it came from.
Yeah, exactly. Because you are working very much clairvoyantly, aren't you? With this. So what are you working on apart from the 8th?
Well, I'm going to finish the 7th. And currently I'm doing some more books related more to genealogy. And then when my kids are all grown and out of the house, I'll probably go back to doing fantastic.
Cool. So with the genealogy, but you mentioned your great grandma. And I know because you've sent me a little bit about who you are, so that we know who you are. And you've said with your great grandma that she was a feature writer. And she returned to Akron in 1924, and that's in Ohio, isn't it? Now, here's something that is absolute. When I read that, I thought, no way. So my grandmother, my dad's mum, my nana, her brother emigrated in 1920 from England, from here where I live, to Akron.
No way.
Yeah. And
Such a small world.
he would have been there the whole time that she was working as a feature writer. And his obituary is in the newspaper that she wrote for.
That's amazing.
I know. It's like,
small world.
I know.
I think that's really interesting.
No kidding. Yeah, it's right across from Canada. It's right across Lake Ontario from where you are, Michael.
Yeah.
You said you're in Toronto today?
Yeah. No, I've been to Akron many, many times because I've had friends that live there as well. And when I say to people, they say, "Where are you going this weekend?" This was years ago, and I would say, "Well, I'm going down to Akron," and they go like, "Huh? Where?"
I know.
Akron,
Akron,
sort of south of Chicago, Cincinnati, Cleveland. Don't worry about it.
I've never actually been to Akron.
Oh, you haven't?
I haven't. It was one of my goals to do, but then COVID hit, and I was like, okay, after COVID, I'll make it there.
Yeah.
But it's a very typical U.S. town.
Yeah,
it's like the gas stations and the malls and. It's I'm not going to say it's bland because that would not be fair, but it's a town with heart, and it's not a city, I guess. No,
it's a small
heart
town.
and a lot of tires.
I don't think it was like that in the 1920s. But,
no, I don't think so.
Oh, she died really young. She died at 33 after she had a second childbirth that didn't go very well, and the child did not live. And many people from the Akron Beacon Journal were giving blood transfusions to try to save her life, but they couldn't. So she passed away that way, and it really left an empty space, a vacant chair, as it was written, because a lot of people followed her column. And when I read her writing, we write very similar. So when I was writing this book, I could really get into the feeling of her writing, because it's very much as though she was speaking through me as well. So I don't know if that was her.
She probably was.
Or just the epigenetic memory, but a combination of both produced this 800-page book. So,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think a lot of like great writers, composers, musicians, poets, they are influenced very much by, so you've got your own drive and your own experiences, but also I think spirit influence. I wouldn't be at all surprised if your great grandma was not influencing you like that.
Oh, for sure. She really probably wanted this book to be written. She's like, my life was over too soon. And see, I'm really happy that I've been able to continue my life and doing writing, because that's something she probably wanted to do, was produce more books and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we should check back with you a little way down the line to see if those are finished. If then we can talk about the 7th book and the 8th, which is the 7th carrying on from the story, or
I think I will actually finish up this book, the 7th book. And everything in it has like spells that I've written and things like that, and so I don't know. It's fun. It's definitely spooky. That's the Gibson girl photograph. So
that's really cool.
Yeah. Postcard from 1908, and it's a Gibson girl, and it's used.
And then you can see that is so cool how you've done that, and you do all your own artwork, don't you?
Well, this is just a postcard. I do all of it. I do the artwork. I do the publishing. I do the writing. I have a team of editors and things like that. But I really like to get involved in the making of a book, because I do feel like it's magic in its own way, and I want to have it be how I want it presented.
Yeah, I love it.
I have a bunch of experiences, but nothing is really tied together to the books or anything. They're just a bunch of loose ghost stories and things like that.
Those ghost stories. Give us a ghost story. Go on, let's throw a ghost story in there.
Well, okay, not necessarily ghost stories so much as, I can do ghost story. No, I'll do this one. A friend of mine and I were at a campground, and it had one of these pyramids, these copper pyramids that some people do their meditations underneath and that kind of thing. And it's gigantic. We were caught in a torrential rainstorm, and I felt the urge to just like being pushed, like get inside this pyramid, and it's open on all sides, absolutely open. And so my friend and I, we got in it. And I'm like, I feel silly that we're in here. And she's like, I know, but we're dry. And I'm like, what do you mean? And I'm looking and I'm watching rain as though there's like an invisible glass window. The rain is coming down on the side of this pyramid. It's open. Clearly, there's no glass there, but we're watching rain trickle down. And then all of a sudden she looks at me and she's like, yeah, I see them too. And we're surrounded by an incredible amount of elders, like a tribe of, I don't know, 20 to 30 elders just surrounding us. It was just a really spiritual experience.
I want to go into a pyramid with you.
Sure. I think we should meet. I would love to meet you in person. I think we'd have a blast tiptoeing through cemeteries together. So.
I do too.
Doing things. Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you for today. We've absolutely loved this. It's been great.
I'm pleased.
And we'll get back to you and see how that 7th book is coming along and if it's available. Yeah.
I will hope to get it done by this summer then, and that will be wonderful. And of course, I will send you your very own copy.
Thank you.
You're very welcome, and you too, Michael. If you'd like.
Did I plead enough?
Excellent.
Well, thanks so much. Thanks so much for being part of the show, Kristin.
You're welcome.
Really, really, really great. And like Jackie says, I hope that people that are watching this, that they do go out and get some of your books, because like you said, I mean, I too, when I read, I find young adult novels very interesting, and adults that go like, nah, they're just for kids. No, they're not. I mean, they're not at all, are they? They're for everyone.
Well, I had no idea this story was going to take me to these places that it went to. It was completely time travel, and then I realized it's not just time. I'm looking at past lives and things like that, and it was really, really fun.
Yeah, because Alyson is somewhat of a time traveler, isn't she, Alyson?
Well, I'd say she's a witch, but that's just such a label. She's just so much more than that. She's connected to the stars themselves.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And on that note, we shall say, thank you very much, and we shall see you very soon.
Yes, and cheers to you.
Cheers.
Yes, we'll have tea sometime. So
we shall. That would be great.
Yeah.
Or maybe have that cat tiger wine.
Oh yeah, I can find that. I don't actually have a bottle of it. I just took a photo of it, but yeah, if I can find.
That's our mission then, Michael.
Yep, I'm on it.
It's from Spain, so we'll have to ask Allison.
Oh yes, because she's in Spain. Yeah, absolutely.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right.